This was also an opportunity for me to be able to reflect on a few things today. It's one of the privileges, and I use the word loosely. It's one of the privileges I have as the conferencier. What did I want to reflect on today? What am I carrying with me today? What have I been carrying with me these last days? I actually found it difficult to put it into words. So I will say it straight. He got in. That man got in. It happened. Some would say it's been happening for some time. But let us place it in the room today. And I personally believe that he won. But he won a place, he won an election of fear. For me personally, he represents a total disregard for the people that we work with, whom we defend, and the beliefs that we stand for. Women's rights, the rights of gay and transgender. I wonder what he thinks about children's rights, refugee or migrant rights, rights for persons who are deaf or disabled. And I wonder what he thinks about ethnic and cultural human rights. Combined with what I believe a growing Nazi rhetoric sweeping Europe and obviously everywhere else. It means that dictators and political bullies, religious fanatics and media trolls will try to frighten us. But we are called today, and our work, as it has always been, is clear. We will celebrate the themes today of M.R. Dagarna and continue to celebrate them long after the days are over, and I use the word celebrate. Today's themes concern how we achieve our civil rights, how we sustain them, and how we defend them. And over these days, with our privilege, we will show no fear. We will exercise our rights, and we will bring the tower down. Over these days, I ask that we greet each other. We greet each other as friends. Over these days, we embrace people in this event that we don't know, strangers, and greet them as family. Over these days, we will hashtag and Facebook our power. We represent the freedom with which everybody is born. And today we breathe. We know the people that are not with us today. We know the people who could not make us today. We know the people who will never be here. We will use our days and our rights and take them onto the streets and back home with us, no matter where we are. Thank you. So, let's move on then for a little reflection. Let's bring to the stage our next panelists to start us off for the day. Can I present to the stage Anna Wigenmark, Secretary General, Föreningen Ordfront. Applause, keep going. Issa Touma, photographer and gallerist from Gävle and Aleppo. Thank you. Katrin, Stjärnfeldt, Jammeh, Major City of Malmö, and Ola Börjel, Region Chief Physician, Region Skåne. Thank you. There, take your seat. So what we're going to reflect on today, of course, many of you know that the position of human rights defenders can sometimes be considered harder. This is in full respect, of course, to people who have been fighting this for years. who may be sitting back and saying, this is nothing new. Many people think that today this could be a tougher time. So let's reflect with some of the organizers and artists with us today. Here is Anna, and I'd like to start with you first. Actually, we open out a little bit so our colleagues can see you there. There you go. Forget the table. Don't need the table.
Probably not.
Yes, you do. You need the table. Lovely.
Sorry.
So, we assume that being a human rights defender is taking more from us, becoming tougher. So let's start with you, Anna. You and the organization Ordfront are one of the organizations behind this event. First of all, why do you think, and I know you think you've heard it before, but it's always good to hear it again, why do you think we need a forum like this?
Mm-hmm. Well, you said it so eloquently before. I think it's quite obvious in the times that we are living today that it's, for some reason, even though human rights have progressed in the world, and in particular perhaps in Sweden, because I know there are a number of organizations here, authorities, local authorities who work with human rights and respect them every day. At the same time, we see that there is a regression when it comes to human rights and to the understanding of human rights and what it is, and that it concerns everyone. And it's also human rights for everyone. So I think even though we have been organizing the Human Rights Forum for more than 15 years, as you mentioned, it's getting more and more important to meet, to gather, and to strengthen ourselves, and to not give in to the forces that actually try to say that human rights are not as important anymore. To me, it's also it's also a start of meeting and events and networking and learning more from each other, which is, I think, is very important for every one of us. I know that we might not actually get the people we want to persuade to think differently to the Human Rights Forum, but we can do our bit, and we can see that we are as one in the strength and in the fight for human rights today. So that's why I believe that the forum is even more important perhaps today than for a long time.
Excellent. And I think, as one of the organizers, do you have a specific hope about the event? What do you hope might happen after these days?
Yeah, we decided that this year's forum will be particularly pinpointing two different kinds of rights: economic, social, and cultural rights, and the right to asylum. And I think it's also perhaps clear to everyone, with so many people fleeing their countries, trying to get asylum and a safe haven in other countries, and for some countries to close their borders and not letting them in, that it's important to discuss the right to asylum and to bring that to our attention. But also to learn about economic, social, and cultural rights, because I think that there is a perception that these are not real human rights still, after so long time. And it's too easy today for politicians to actually disregard economic, social, and cultural rights for all. And we need to say and stress that they are for all, and it's very disheartening in a way when we see that there are politicians and decisions being made where they so blatantly refuse economic, social, and cultural rights for everyone. So that's why we needed to pinpoint these two themes in this year's forum.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll start with this again, just to really layer the whole day's events and, of course, the next days. I'd like to introduce Katrin, Stjärnfeldt, Jammeh, and Ola Börjel, your organization, City of Malmö and Skåne Region. My questions to you, really. Human rights, this is the forum. And one of the important questions, I think, is what is the most, from your perspective, what's one of the most important human rights for your organizations today that you feel needs to be focused on? Ola. Oh, absolutely, if you want to.
Okay, thank you.
Is it?
Yes,
Aha.
absolutely.
Okay.
Katrin.
Okay, thank you. Well, I think it's hard to pinpoint just one issue, to be honest. I think you have plenty of issues that we have to address and work really hard with every day in all parts of our organization and in the city. But I think to work with values and attitudes is something that we have to do, all of us, over and over and over again, wherever we are. And I think if I look at the city of Malmö, we have 179 different nationalities being represented in our city. Our population, 40%, they are younger than 29 years old. And we have a population with like networks all over the world. And we have to work really, really hard with creating good values to be an open and inclusive city. And even though we are such a global city, we have to work hard. I just give you a short story. We have a university, Malmö University. They're working quite a lot with international students. And we used to organize a welcome reception. And last time, one of the young students from abroad entered the mayor of the city, asked him, well, you're the mayor of Malmö? And he said, well, yes. But you are an international student? And he was, yes. But you speak fluently Swedish, and you speak with a very Malmö accent. How come? And he said, well, I decided to register at my family abroad to be able, I'm born and raised in Malmö, he told. I'm born and raised in Malmö, but I decided to register with my family abroad to be able to come to Sweden and my city Malmö as a foreign student. And you can see that people react and respond and talk to me in a totally different way. When I said that I'm an international student and I don't have to tell, I'm just a young guy from Rosengård.
Yes.
And that's really a terrible story. So even if we're such an international city with so many young citizens, we have to work really, really hard to make sure that you never, ever have to do something like that to feel that you're being respected.
Absolutely, and I think that's a great example as well, that human rights, of course, we have on an epic, on a political, on a global scale, but they are happening every day in the smallest way to every single human being. I think that's an excellent and a terrible example of how that can be, and of course, the aim is that one day that doesn't exist. I wanted to stay with you a little bit, really. Again, one of the co-persons here, the organizations, what do you hope to take with you today? Which is a rather unusual question for the organizers, but every MR Day gives something. What are you feeling that you will take away with you? What are your hopes as hosts?
Well, me personally, I feel like I would like to learn more from other cities, how they address these kind of issues. And we have lots of people in our staff here today, and I hope that they will feel inspired and have lots of empowerment and go back to their everyday work with new influences. I think it's important to just come together and make everyone feel that we can create the future. We do it together. It's not just something that happens. We do a difference on an everyday basis, and even if you can't do everything, you can do quite a lot, and you can learn from others. So I think that's important.
Your own personal power, your own personal makt.
Yes.
Thank you. Ulla, is there something you would like to add to this?
Well, you talked about the most urgent human rights issue.
Yes.
And I think, first of all, we want everybody to feel absolutely welcome in our healthcare. And we really want to meet the patients with care and respect. That's basic. But then, at the same time, we could soon be forced to choose and prioritize between different types of patients, because to economical reasons. And that will be a great problem soon. Age, gender, social situation, psychological disorders, expensive drugs will compete against each other. And that's a big problem. And the increasingly elderly population is perhaps the biggest challenge of all. So there is a great risk of coming up discrimination in all those situations. And people are set against each other. And that's a big problem. That worries us. And human rights are set against economical restrictions. So this is a real challenge for the future. And therefore, it's so important for us to talk about human rights in our healthcare system every day. And
are another excellent example that really syncs together
Yes.
a vision of the city. And I
Yeah.
think for everyone here, as you say, what are you going to pick up? So my next question to you, of course, is what is your hope? What do you hope to learn? As a host, what do you hope to take away from these days?
From those days, I hope to meet a lot of people, get new ideas and get inspired. I think that's the most important thing, to meet people and to communicate. Just walk around. I think that's the best of all. Yes. Take home new ideas.
New ideas and power as well.
Yes.
Because sometimes we get a bit tired.
It's very powerful just to walk around.
Yeah.
Yes.
Congratulations to you both. But I'd like to now address Issa Touma, a very important artist. I've researched his work, really. You can talk a little bit about yourself, but of course you own a gallery, you are a photographer of huge standing, award-winning, and you move between Gävle and Aleppo, if I understand rightly. My first question, we met yesterday and we had a little chat, and I had a question that I was going to ask. The question I was going to ask, Issa, was that today people are feeling a bit disillusioned with the human rights, that there is a feeling that because of what we see here, what we're involved, our resources, that somewhere, and I'm speaking as a quote rather than what I personally believe, but the question would have been, people are losing faith, the world is shifting, the world looks like we that believe in human rights are somehow getting weaker. My choice of words today. But your response yesterday when we met was actually that the reason that this might be happening is actually about truth and lies and how information and ideas is manipulated. And you as a great photographer, you must really check out Isra's work. Extraordinary records and art about where you are living and working. But can you talk a little bit about your response to the idea that we might be losing faith, responding to the idea of truth and lies?
Sure. I can talk all night and morning.
You can talk. We have some time.
But I have limited time.
You have a little time for now.
But I can start with the point before I come to Gävle city. And last 8 months I was traveling all around Europe lecturing. Also, I meet many coordinators of the Icon, which I find many of them incredibly sweet, trying from really to help people. But I find many steps they do it in not just Icon, many other organizations, and they are a little bit naive. And I find that really like why I didn't hear about all this movement when I was in Syria all these years. I don't understand, you know. For me, the question is not how much demonstration you can do in West here for human rights, and in the public space you hack refugees and you say, wow, I'm welcoming you and whatever. It's how much this movement can affect inside the original country. Actually, I can say something because I was there. I spent 5 years in the war, 4 years and a half in the war, almost, yeah. So before that, the only thing we hear about human rights organization when they say something like unlogical statement, sometime in the news we hear about that, but it's not affecting inside anything. I think this kind of movement is really can be much strong, much things when we help the people inside the original country who have like a problem to feel that there is people really care about them. And I think to bring the artists here or freedom fighters here or whatever to West and give them opportunity to have a nice life for some time, and some of them stay forever here. This is kind of the emptying the country from the freedom fighters. And this never will affect any society really well. And I will tell you something, maybe you can make investment of that. I'm joking this, but it's really fun because all the dictators will be happy from what you're doing. Because bringing the freedom fighters here, maybe they will pay transportation also. Because this cannot happen, because if someone have case, if someone have something to say, he should say it in original country, and you should find a way to support him there, to bring him here, to make demonstration and talk in the public space here. What can help the people? What's happening now today in everything, the other romantic movement happening here, it was just like, you can see in the public media how the people share information, like the stories, like the last doctor had been killed in Aleppo, and the day next, the same news channel say, okay, 30 people die, and the doctors trying to help or hurt under the barrel bomb or whatever. So the doctors trying to help them. Just you can. No one asking. I find out in the West here they don't. The people sharing this kind of things without asking questions. So one day before, the same channel say the last doctor die under the bombing, and next day you can find that 30 doctors active in the another hospital. The last hospital has been bombed. The last gardener had been killed. There's another gardener 500 meters far from my gallery still exists. And this kind of stories and this kind of things, which is making the people, the only thing to make it the media, that the Western people become more angry about the cases, and the human rights organization feel that hopeless, they cannot help the people. Because I think if you want to make really change, we should follow the true story, and we should tell the people who lie, politicians or medias, shut up. And this is the first step to change something. And this is very important, I think, because what is happening make us really inside very angry, more angry from any other fanatics even. Intellectuals, they start to not believe organization, they are not start not believe the human rights things, because how we can believe it when human rights organizations make objection like about case in Saudi Arabia, you can find the same country leader, which is the European politician. He ran immediately to Saudi Arabia and apologized, and kissed the shoes of the king and tell him he didn't mean the human rights organization to say that. How we can respect this? I think simply you can make to that politician feel really, he's not scared from you. Because you can tell him, okay, next time I will not vote you. So we'll stop, go to Saudi Arabia and kiss the king's shoes and tell him, sorry, our human rights organization, he didn't mean that, you know? Like the Swedish minister happened when she talked one time about the right things about Saudi Arabia. Immediately your prime minister, I think, whatever, you know, ran to Saudi Arabia to correct the things. I don't understand this. I don't believe this. I think the best, if you'll continue this way, you should shut down.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, here we have some very stark and very contrasting views. The desire and the expectations of those organizers here at the festival. I congratulate you again. Some of the concerns, not only, as you said very well, every human right is important. No one is better or worse than any other. But there are certain focuses, and I think the health issue will be one of the strongest that will come up apart. The views that you hold yourself, really, to think about that. The manipulation of information. And what is our job, not only, of course, to defend, but also to be vigilant. Were there any responses to that, to any of the statements made here? Are you feeling good?
I want to hear.
You want to hear? Are there any responses? No? Yeah.
I will be happy to bring it with me to Aleppo, if anything you want.
Aha, any responses to Aleppo? Okay, thank you. I wanted to shift just a little bit then. With some of these views proposed, there's the other side, of course. If you could give every single participant here something to go home with, that wasn't money. Because not all of us have that. What would it be? It can be an existential thing, of course, and that's normally something we think of ourselves in our hearts, in our minds. But you together here today, listening to your thoughts, if you could give something to every single person, what would it be? Madam?
Never give up. That's what I want to say. And I think if you always, you need to continue working, even though it feels difficult and you feel that you have backlashes and everything, continue and never give up. And I always, in my work, I always keep going back to the Universal Declaration in the first article where everyone is equal in rights and in dignity. That's something to remember in all the work you do. That's the simplest and easiest way of keeping in face with what human rights really are.
And does that also give you hope?
That gives me hope.
That
really.
gives you hope.
Yeah.
Never give up, hashtag. Okay. Sir.
For me?
Yes,
yeah.
Please.
Okay. I think that in difficult times, faith, hope, and love still remains. And the greatest is love.
Ah.
And I think every action requires love. I think we all are to be ambassadors of love and together fights for the human rights. We can create a positive role model and change the norms together. So we must be proactive, prevent, and alter the attitude in the society and put the human rights in focus.
Thank
That I
you.
will say.
That you will say.
Yes.
Faith, love, and hope.
Yes.
Your Highness?
Yeah, it's good.
We do that in England, by the way. We say things like, Your Royal Highness and Prince and Duchess. Ma'am.
Okay. I would say that something that really inspires me is the fact that as mayor of a city as Malmö, that things that we do here affect other parts of the world, actually. And things that happens far away abroad affects the opportunities in our city. We're part of a global world. And I think my message is that all of us, me as a person who talks in case of the city, but all of us, we can make a change. And I think never give up is something good to remember, because in everything we do, in all meetings, we make a change. And I think it's important, especially these days, actually, to remember that society and the future is not just going to happen. We create it, and I think that's something good to remember.
Brilliant. Thank you. Issa.
I'm practical. I don't want, maybe the best it's to stop some of the romantic movement and think really about practical step in the future. That will be really great.
Practical.
Yes, sure.
Thank you.
Because I'm enough from the romantic. My friend dying everywhere, so I don't like to have it anymore.
All right. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like you to give a round of applause to our opening panel.
Okay.
Yeah.